What's up, guys? Welcome back to another book review. Today we're going to be talking about Robert Greene's The 48 Laws of Power. And haven't done one of these in a long time. I've been very busy with school over the past month and a half. But I have been busy reading. I've read 5 books, this one included. And these next couple weeks, I'll be back on the book review grind, making more videos for you guys. So excited to jump into this one today. I categorize the 48 Laws of Power as a self-help book. Some might consider it more like a psychology or maybe even political strategy. It could really fall into a lot of different categories, but I see Robert Greene as an author who's made a name for himself. There's a lot of videos on YouTube of him speaking, of content creators interviewing him, and things of that nature. You know, his books are very well renowned because they're incredibly well researched. They are very insightful, and some of you guys who've been on this channel for a little while now know that I am into self-development, self-help, and I read some of these books pretty frequently. And Robert Greene's book, just to be honest with you, I've always known about it. I've seen it on the bookshelf all the time, and I finally was just like, you know what? I need to read this man's work. So I purchased this, and I also purchased The Laws of Human Nature, which at some point I'm going to read. But today we're going to be talking about his bestseller, the one he's most known for, The 48 Laws of Power. This book is very Machiavellian in nature, right? Some people might read it and they might be turned off by some of the things he suggests. The way the book is structured is that every chapter has, starts with the law, and then it's followed up by anecdotes from history, all parts of history, all regions of the world, and he tells these stories. Robert Greene is a masterful storyteller. He really did a good job of making the stories relevant, but also making them interesting. And yes, so there's always an adherence to the rule, right? So that's the law. He goes through an adherence of the law, and then he goes through an infraction of the law, and then he breaks down sort of the keys to power. The book is riddled with quotes from famous figures and historical figures, and you could read the book very quickly by just reading the law, skipping the historical section and going straight to the keys to power, and I think you'd be able to get just as much out of the book. I did read the whole thing, and it was I honestly wanted to quit, but it was kind of one of those things where it's all right, I've already started. I was really entrenched in it, and I kind of just don't quit books once I'm 20 pages in. So I had to finish it. But I wanted to talk to you guys about just some of my favorite laws. This video probably won't be too long, and I'm sure there's a lot that could be said. Oh, I wanted to start off with one little note about power, right? And because this book could have so many I'm sure there are people who say bad things about it, and just the realness of it, and the harsh truths that he talks about. Right? These are things that some people might not want to hear. People might see as manipulative. But when I was reading it from my own life, I was wow, I really wish that I had. Some of these things you have an intuitive understanding about, but it was just broken down so clearly, and I was this could have been very useful to me in my early 20s. In terms of work and employment and navigating corporate America, right? There's just, I guess what I'm trying to say is that in the course to power, right? Power is, it can be defined as a lot of different things, but let's just say power is influence, right? The ability to influence people and the ability to influence outcomes, that is power, right? This is not a bad thing, right? And it's power necessarily accrues to those who are most capable. And power in and of itself is not a bad thing. You hear quotes like absolute power corrupts absolutely. That's probably true. I think distributed power is, sort of the best way to divvy up power, if it will, or how it ought to be distributed. But I will say that someone has to wield power, and someone has to go through a journey of life to to take on that power. And power is not bad, but really what you want is you want people who are just, right? You want philosopher kings to rule. You want people who have good morals and good ethics and care about humanity and also who bring a variety of perspectives of life, right? And so just going to jump into my favorite laws and start with law number 10. Avoid unhappy and unlucky people. You can die from someone else's misery. Emotional states are as infectious as diseases. You may feel you are helping the drowning man, but you are only precipitating your own disaster. The unfortunate sometimes draws misfortune on themselves. They will also draw it on you. Associate with the happy and fortunate instead. This one resonated with me and was something that I had to learn within my own life, right? I've navigated life, there's certain people I've had to remove from my life because of their negativity. But really, it's important that you want to be the type of person that people like to be around. Like when they're around you, they know like, hey, he has good energy. He's a happy person. He's going to say something interesting. He's going to be, crack a joke, whatever it is. And this is the type of person that people want to be around. And it attracts more people like that to you, right? And whenever you just, got a bad attitude and, always got something negative to say, like people don't want to hear it, right? People often, and he talks about this in the book, people often seek escapism from themselves, right? They want to believe in something else, as it were, right? And I'll just read a couple quotes from this. Understand this. In the game of power, the people you associate with are critical. Use the positive side of this emotional osmosis to your advantage, right? So now he's talking about they'll take on your energy of positivity. So use this positive side of this emotional osmosis to your advantage. If, for example, you are miserly by nature, you will never go beyond a certain limit. Only generous souls attain greatness. Never associate with those who share your defects. They will reinforce everything that holds you back. Only create associations with positive affinities. Make this a rule of life and you will benefit more than from all the therapy in the world. So I thought that was a very clear point, and yeah, it's just something that only create positive associations. I thought what he's never associate with people who share your own defects. So you have to be able to do some self-reflection here to really get value out of that. But moving on to law number 28 on page 227. Enter action with boldness. If you are unsure of a course of action, do not attempt it. Your doubts and hesitations will infect your execution. Timidity is dangerous. Better to enter with boldness. Any mistakes you commit through audacity are easily corrected with more audacity. Everyone admires the bold. No one honors the timid. Right. This one is, let's say, for example, I got on this video and I was, I don't know what I want to say, and I don't know what I really think. You wouldn't be interested in that type of content, right? You want someone who has ideas, someone who's not afraid to share his opinion, right? Someone who might put out a perspective that's different than yours, but who's willing to back it up through reason and logic, and be bold in your actions, right? And I think that this is one of those laws where like it was intuitive to me. I think it's something I've demonstrated within my own life, just a willingness to like put myself in environments and really like never let anyone knock you off your frame, because like, especially girls, if there's a guy watching this, right? Like women love to try to knock men off their frame. And this is their way of kind of testing them. But like if let's say you enter into a social situation and you say something and someone seems offended by it, or maybe you embarrass yourself or something, or do something that people ought to be seen, some would see as embarrassing, right? Like your refusal to be embarrassed, your refusal to be rattled, your refusal to feel discomfort, that boldness, that willingness to just stand there and not feel discomfort is very powerful. And in fact, I think it's one of my strongest assets, just kind of like doing some self-reflecting there. And, was there a good quote in there? There might have been. Yeah, so I'll just read. Boldness and hesitation elicit very different psychological responses in their targets. Hesitation puts obstacles in your path. Boldness eliminates them. Once you understand this, you will find it essential to overcome your natural timidity and practice the art of audacity. The following are among the most... Okay, yeah, so that's the end of that. And now moving on to law number 43 on page 367. Work on the hearts and minds of others. Coercion creates a reaction that will eventually work against you. You must seduce others into wanting to move in your direction. A person you have seduced becomes your loyal pawn. And the way to seduce others is to operate on their individual psychologies and weaknesses. Soften up the resistance by working on their emotions, playing what they hold dear and what they fear. Ignore the hearts and minds of others, and they will grow to hate you. So, right, you can see how some people might not like how he talks about things. Talks about seduce others, use their weaknesses. He talks about using people as pawns, right? This type of language really offends people. And if you can just move past that, there really is some nuggets in here of gold. In this last quote, right? Ignore the hearts and minds of others and they will grow to hate you. So he goes, like I said, in this example in this book, he gives people who don't follow the law, right? And the example he gives is Marie Antoinette, who was, I think she was the mistress of Louis XIV or Louis XV. And she was, very lavish in her lifestyle, and she ignored the common people, as it were, and they grew to disdain her, and this led to her downfall. And he talks about whenever you are in a position of power, it's important to talk to those people who are in positions of lower status than yourself. Not only because this helps win their hearts, right? Because people like to feel like they're being heard. People like to know that they have the ear of someone who is important. But it also will help you seem more down to earth, more in tune with reality, rather than the aura of perfection or of untouchableness that power often creates. And I think another kind of like key component of this whole section, like work on the hearts and minds of others, is really about like just making yourself useful, right? So he says, in the game of power, you are surrounded by people who have absolutely no reason to help you unless it is in their interest to do so. And if you have nothing to offer their self-interest, you are likely to make them hostile, for they will see in you just one more competitor or one more waste of their time. So like really at the heart of that is like making yourself useful to others. It's hard to get on the bad side of someone who needs you, right? Like if they need you, if you're useful to them, it's very hard for them to grow to dislike you. And this, helps you build your power base, because as he talks about in the book, a lot of power is about who you know. And I'm going to end this here. I think this has gone on long enough. Let me know what you guys think. If you've read this, I'd love to hear from you guys. I also purchased the 51st Law of Power by 50 Cent and Robert Greene. Like it was kind of like a little meme book, and I might do a review on that in the near future if you guys want to. So if you want me to, let me know in the comments below. And also just let me know what you guys think of the book. See you in the next video. Peace.